Hello, I'm Britton, and this is a run-through of the instructional tool that I developed for this lesson, which in this case is a PowerPoint presentation. As you can see, the lesson is on citation, and it's part of a larger course on information literacy for undergrads at Cal State University East Bay. The lesson will be about an hour and delivered via Zoom. My learning objectives are that on completion of this lesson, students will be able to understand the place of citation in scholarly communication, construct in-text citations and reference list entries in APA style, and write a paper with proper APA citation. Since this class, like many others, was unexpectedly moved online, and also I'm not the only instructor, I put this slide in to remind the students who I am. And I'm now realizing that this picture makes it look like it's a plane right out of my head. This slide ties citation in with concepts that have already been addressed in the course, like scholarly communication, and hopefully gives the students some information on why citation is necessary. I've included the last point about plagiarism because it's relevant and also to help motivate the learners. I imagine at this point in their academic careers, they probably know someone who has gotten in trouble for plagiarism and would like to avoid it themselves. The last slide addressed the why, and this slide addresses the when. I'll run through these points, and then I'll stop and give them a chance to ask questions if they have any. The concept of what is or is not common knowledge can be a bit tricky, as well as what constitutes paraphrasing. Now it's time to break up the lecturing with some learner participation. So I've chosen a think, pair, share activity. I'm asking them to identify what type of resource, like books, journals, newspapers, websites, magazines, etc., would best support these statements. This activity will also function as a formative assessment tool. Based on the responses that come out of the think, pair, share activity, I should have a good idea of how engaged they are with the concepts and how well they understand. Moving back to lecture here, I'm going to spend as much time as I can on the actual mechanics of creating citations in APA style. I want to emphasize that the key elements of citation in APA style are in-text citations and the reference list entries. That these are both different expressions of the same information and that one refers to the other. This is more of what I talked about in the last slide, getting into the nitty-gritty of actually constructing citations. I think this color-coded image from the APA showing how the different parts relate to each other is a good illustration of what the process is all about. The last slide may have seemed like a bit much in terms of how much work the learners have to do to create a citation. So at this point, I'm going to show them how to use the citation button on the library website to make their lives a little bit easier. But I'll also emphasize that these automated citations usually have some issues. I'll actually switch from sharing this PowerPoint to sharing my browser to demonstrate how it's done on the library website. This is the final bit of lecturing where I'll show them some of the different ways you can construct your in-text citation. Once again, the APA has a nice color-coded graphic that helps shows what's going on here. I'll stop again for questions after the lecturing because I feel like this is where students might need some clarification before they get to work creating their citations. This is the learner participation activity that the whole lesson is building towards. The best way to learn how to create citations is to actually do it. So hopefully there'll be a decent amount of time left in the lesson to give them some chance to work on creating these citations. I plan to break them into pairs, and then they will collaboratively work on a worksheet in Google Docs that has example sources that they will need to create citations from. This will also function as my second and more significant formative assessment tool, because being able to do this is really what the lesson is all about. Finally, I'll address any questions that came up during the worksheet exercise and hand it off to the main instructor who will talk about what's going to happen next week. The instructor will fill out this slide with relevant stuff about upcoming assignments and what have you. And that's it. Thank you for joining me on this tour of the instructional tool that I developed for my lesson.